What's up, guys? Thank you for listening to Talkin' Fit. I'm here with John and Blakely, the owners of Digital Barbell, an online coaching company. They do both training and nutrition. They have a ton of clients. They have really fun, entertaining Instagram as well, which I also have a bone to pick with John because he always posts pictures of drinking non-alcoholic beer, and I'm always and my reaction was like, I don't even see the point in doing it.
That's the most common reaction.
So I'm really happy to have you guys here. We actually met because we all went to a fitness business mastermind seminar, wherever you want to call it, in outside of Seattle in September. And it was just us and probably a total of like 10 total other coaches there. So it's pretty close knit. And we kind of hit it off. We've been shooting some quick DMs on Instagram, so I thought I'd have you guys on. But thanks for coming out. Thanks.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure. We were excited to get to do this for sure. It was good to meet you in person. I feel like we have a lot in common with you.
Yeah, awesome. And I'm always excited to talk to other coaches. I just think we share a very common experience that is not very common, broad scale. I don't think people understand, the day-to-day of what's involved. So I guess maybe just give us a quick breakdown of what your business is and who you guys mainly help, and maybe a little bit of what your day-to-day life is like.
Yeah. Do you want me to handle this? Yeah. So like you said, we train people online, and we also do nutrition coaching online, but our background is really in in-person training. Blakely owned a CrossFit affiliate for several years. She'd been coaching CrossFit for 10 or more years now. We have a history in strength training, and made the transition to 100% online in 2019, right before the world shut down. We luckily already had all the infrastructure built out to coach people online. And we can't go into the whole story, but we had moved to Idaho at the time, as we went full time in a job that did not provide us a full-time income yet. We had the opportunity to live in a friend's house, rent free for at least a year and a half. And during that time, we were able to grow the business to what it is now and supports us. Yeah. Our most of our clients are people pretty much like us. A lot of them have a history in group fitness classes. And for whatever reason, they either weren't getting the results that they wanted, they got burned out doing that. And we've been able to help them kind of unlock their potential with a little bit more sustainable approach to working out and nutrition. And we also have a large base of actually older clients. We call them our master's clients. These have all just come through referrals over the year, but we have 65-year-olds. We have over 70-year-olds. And they're some of our most consistent and fun clients to work with. Honestly, they look forward to their workouts. They're super compliant, and it's having a huge impact on their lives too. So we kind of spread out across who we help, but those are kind of the main categories.
Awesome. And so I know that you guys have coaches who work underneath you, but as the owners, you guys are still in the trenches a lot, like you're working with your own book of clients.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah.
We have a client kind of up in your neck of the woods, a little bit closer to you. That
you mean coach, right?
Yeah, what I say, client, coach. Yeah, we have a coach that lives up in the Northeast who has a lot of clients with us, and then we have another client out in another coach out in Denver that coaches some of our clients. But yes, we are also coaching our clients on a day-to-day basis.
I think that's important. I think I sometimes you probably see this too in the fitness space, the fitness business spaces. Sometimes as coaches grow, and not judging or saying one's right or wrong, but they tend to, do less coaching and more talking about how to grow your business and more that aspect of things. I guess for you guys, what keeps it fun for you being a coach? Like what do you enjoy about actually coaching human beings that maybe keeps you from going, all right, we're going to hire on a couple more coaches. You guys take all the clients. We just want to sit back and do like back end stuff.
Why don't you take this one?
Go ahead.
I think, to the first point, like as a business owner, you do have to actually start to take a little bit of a backseat if you want to scale the business in any sense. I'm not talking about, growing to like Beachbody size or anything like that, because there's so much that goes on behind the scenes of running and growing a business, as you know, and like you only have so many hours during the day. So if you're going to give attention to the things that actually keep the business running, you're either going to burn yourself out or you're not going to be able to give your clients 100% of the attention that they deserve. So delegating some of that responsibility, I think, is okay as you.
Oh yeah, I think it's absolutely necessary. Yeah.
Well, we learned a big lesson from that when I owned my gym, is because I really tried to just like do 100% of it by myself, like be the coach, clean the gym, write the programming, everything. And I think like that was one of the things I could have grown the gym more if I would have brought on more help and like took more of a back seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, but really the relationships with the clients is probably the thing that is the most rewarding for us from the day-to-day coaching. Like, these people become your friends.
Yeah.
Every month we send out, welcome cards to new members and anniversary cards to members. And it's like not uncommon to be sending out 3-year anniversary cards to training and/or nutrition clients. And some of those people are just continuing to pay us because they like the results that they get, but they like the relationship too. And it's like you miss something in the face-to-face gym world, and you can recreate some of that online.
Yeah.
And I think that's really one of the most rewarding parts is.
Yeah. We feel like we know a lot of these people, and they're people that we've never met before.
Yeah. We've actually had clients that, they've been in our area, like here where we live. And they're like, hey, can we stop by and meet you? And and it's not, when we meet them in person, it's not like we're meeting them for the first time. It's like, hey, how's it been?
Yeah.
It's like, I know it's the first time we've met, but I feel like I already know you.
Yeah.
So that's been really cool.
I think I was talking about this with another coach recently. I feel like the fitness space, not to just build ourselves up as coaches, but I feel like being a fitness professional is when you're an actual coach, an actual fitness professional, not like an Instagram influencer. It's one of the only professions where you're expected to be like everything. You need to be very knowledgeable, but also very personable, entertaining, be able to make content, be able to write, be able to be on video, be able to be on audio, like also maintain and look the part. Like I don't think we necessarily get as much credit sometimes as what we deserve. The coach I was talking to recently is a registered dietitian who actually left the medical field to start her own business because she saw what the limitations were there. But no one is ever like, man, I really wish my doctor would just be more entertaining when he was talking to me about my diagnosis, right? But when you're a fitness professional going through business coaching, as we both have, it's always like, you got to be able to hook people. You got to be able to talk their language and do all this stuff. So I definitely applaud you guys for, if you're a successful online coach or in-person coach, I think it takes more than people give us credit for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to agree with that. There's a lot more, like when people come stay with us for extended periods, because our office is kind of attached to our house, just like 30 feet away. So they'll stay here for 3, 4, 5 days and they see what we do on a day-to-day basis. And I think maybe in their mind, they just thought we like worked out for a living.
Yeah.
You know, like we're on Zoom, like doing bicep curls with our clients all day. And then like invariably they're like, man, like you guys do a lot of things. And it's almost like you're running a production company in addition to the coaching business. So yeah, there's a lot to it, man. And like, putting out 2 podcasts a week requires thinking ahead. Like you can't get down to the day before the podcast needs to come out and be like, all right, what do we got here?
What are we talking about?
Writing 3 emails per week. It's a lot. It's a lot.
So I guess it's interesting that you say that, because I'm on coming up on episode 50 of this podcast. And I can there's more times than I can count that I sat down to the mic at 5 a.m. and said to myself, all right, what am I going to talk about right now? And then those are always the ones where you're like, sometimes they come out really good and you're like, oh, I just talked off the cuff, but it's always when you're prepared or you have someone to talk to that it comes out better. So I guess digging behind or pulling back the curtain a little bit, looking at a Monday through Friday week, what does your guys' day-to-day or normal week look like? Do you, I think that's funny that you said that, John, because like, that's the one hurdle that I've noticed that pops up very frequently is when someone's like, oh, you're an online coach, so what is that, like Zoom? Like you work out on Zoom? I'm like, no, I don't fucking work out on Zoom. So I guess what is how, as people who run a business and have employees and have a big book of clients, how do you manage your time throughout the week?
We don't. I'm just kidding. It's definitely been a process of getting better at it over the years. That's for sure. And there's still things that we want to do better. Like, when it was just the 2 of us before we hired other coaches, I coached 100% of the nutrition clients. And for some reason, when I started, I thought the best way to do that would be to pile everybody up into their weekly check-ins into 2 days out of the week. So those 2 days of the week, I just had to, I spent like 10 hours behind the computer I skipped my workouts those days, and there was no balance there. So I've learned now that I can spread my nutrition clients out across the course of the week. So I have a manageable chunk to do each day. Don't have any on the weekends. That takes a lot of the pressure off myself. I'm sure that pressure where it's like, you have these check-ins not looming over your head, but they need to get done. You feel this pressure that these people are waiting to hear from you. So I've learned to break that up into more manageable chunks. Why don't you talk about how you do the programming?
On the training side, like I write all of the programming for Digital Barbell to make sure that they're doing, like the protocols that we want them to be doing. And then I deliver it to our coaches, and then they can then customize it for their coaches. So
Clients.
for their clients.
That's a cool structure. So you have you kind of treat it like a digital CrossFit gym, like where you do the main programming and then it just gets individualized.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll write a version for like people, for the everybody. And then I'll write like a scaled version. Then I'll write like a master's version. And then I'll write like people who are specializing in something like Olympic lifting version. And so then the coaches will then customize it based on their client and the days of the week and everything else that they need.
Oh, that's really interesting. I like that approach. I think that's really good because it builds consistency throughout the whole business.
Yeah. We can both I want to make sure that they're doing getting like the digital barbell experience of like the combination of like strength training, some bodybuilding and some CrossFit, that they're getting that like right mix. And then also kind of can create community because I'll like name a workout, for every day there'll be like a named workout. And so I can post on Instagram or something like, hey, how was this workout for everybody? And, just kind of create that sense.
That's awesome. I really like that. That's really cool. I think it's just more efficient and it does build that vernacular throughout the whole group, and it does build that community as opposed to each person having their specific workout. I think we get sometimes people overestimate what the term individualized programming means. They think like there's this. I just had this conversation yesterday with someone. It's like people believe that there's this special diet or this special exercise that they specifically should be doing
just for them. Yeah.
And it's not like that. It's like, no, you just need to take the principles and apply it to how you move and how you live your life.
Yeah.
So how long have you guys been in business as Digital Barbell? Like, not like you said 2019 was when you went fully online, but how long were you at CrossFit Owner before then?
Oh, I owned my own gym from 2015 to 2019. Yeah.
We actually started Digital Barbell in 2018 when she still had the gym as just a way to help to coach people on their nutrition inside the gym. And like people that were members of her gym wanted to refer, their family members that lived in other cities. Like, hey, I want my friends and family to have the same kind of experience I have. And this, it was much more like customized training programs back then, delivered through Excel with, everything was just bottom basement ghetto delivery of everything. So there was no infrastructure back then, but that's when we started. There was no intent actually at that time to close the gym we didn't know what it was going to. I was still working a full-time job as a project manager in construction actually.
But for some reason we just started like creating content. Like I had a really pretty gym space. It was like all brick walls and it was just great for shooting videos. So we just started creating this archive of like demonstration videos back in 2018 and 2019. And, we'd stay after class on a Saturday and we would just shoot 10 videos. And back then I was like, man, this is a waste of time. What are we doing? And now I'm just like, man, it is so helpful that we have all of that,
that's awesome. Yeah. I remember when I first started getting more into the online stuff in 2020, when everything was shut down, I remember filming all these like demo videos and just like for all, like, I don't even know how many. And I remember just being like, oh my God, after a while, I'm like, this is brutal. Like, this is like such a waste of time. But then once I started doing almost full-time online coaching, I was like, oh, and I have all these videos already filmed. Like I don't have to worry about like going to find a demo video of an overhead press or a barbell squat. Like I already have it. So sometimes you plant those seeds and you don't realize when they're going to grow.
Exactly. I think it helps too. Your clients see you doing the demonstration of the exercise. Plus, if you just go on YouTube and search like how to do a Bulgarian split squat, it might be like a 10-minute video of this person like telling the story of their life. And then at the end, they show how to do the squat.
Yeah. I'll only let our coaches use our videos. I'm like, you have to only use our videos. And if you need a video, tell me, I'll make one.
Make it.
And there's also like 1,500 results if you type in how to do a Bulgarian split squat. And there's different people. And I agree. And there's also just something about the way you personally deliver that information that makes people want to work with you. So I totally agree with that. Yeah. But for now, Blakely's going to hate me because I do have to talk about this. But here's the big thing. Once you follow John and Blakely on Instagram, as you should, at Digital Barbell, you'll see that they're in super phenomenal shape. And they're also in their mid-40s, like John told me. And John didn't touch a barbell till he was in his 30s. So most of the people who listen to my show specifically are people who are in their late 30s, early mid 40s, 50s, who are maybe struggling to get started or think that they've kind of missed their time. And I think it's an important thing to talk about, that like, just because you didn't start when you were 18 doesn't mean you can't see results. And B, like, age is not a huge factor in whether or not you can be in great shape. So would you guys mind like digging into that a little bit? Like maybe what got you specifically into lifting in your 30s, like, or maybe what kept you away from it before then, and maybe some principles that you live by on a regular basis to stay healthy and stay in shape.
Yeah.
We actually had a friend that was a big influence on us as far as weight training. And one of our, I was his best man at his wedding. He was the best man at my wedding. And we actually met him when we worked at Foot Locker back in the 90s where we met. But anyway, he was really into weightlifting, and we lifted weights with him a couple times in his garage, and he was always touting how we needed to be doing the Olympic lifts and we needed to be back squatting. And we actually did a little bit of that with him back in his garage before that, but there was nothing structured about it. It was a very much like,
just like, if we felt like going over there that night, we would,
drink some beers and do some back squats. And that
back
was
squats in our flip flops. I mean, it was a big disaster.
So we had that exposure to it a little bit. And then what you want to talk about this?
Well, like we found CrossFit in like 2009 when we moved to Tennessee randomly. And that was the kind we were looking for something to do. And that just kind of like, for me, I had like a pretty competitive childhood. Like I competed in some different sports. And so it kind of like relit that fire of like that competitive nature. So I was hooked immediately. And then he came with me to the classes. And when we moved back to Texas, I started coaching, I got my level 1 and started coaching at Rice, and then at another CrossFit gym, and then eventually owned my own CrossFit gym. And so my background was really just in, enjoying CrossFit and getting all the education. I was like geeking out on all the education I could from there.
CrossFit was definitely like the gateway drug into barbell training seriously back in those days. And then around, so like we got fit doing CrossFit, basically. We didn't start to learn really about nutrition during that time back in those 2009, 2010 days, but we got a lot fitter and we got stronger. Even though in CrossFit, you don't necessarily follow a dedicated linear progression strength kind of thing, you're going to get fitter and you're going to get stronger just from the newbie effect. And then we got interested in strength training, and we went to Wichita Falls and went through Mark Ripeto's starting strength seminar program. And that really like lit the fire in me for barbell training. At the seminar, I probably weighed like, I don't know, 175 pounds at the time. And he's like, you need to go home and you need to weigh 200 pounds by the end of the month or she's going to leave you. So you need to go back and start eating all the food. And I tried to do that. So
he had just like kind of been squatting, like where he would come to the gym when I was coaching and like, would you like squat 185 every time or something like that?
That was
like,
my weight.
It was just like, kind of like one of those things, like I bench press this, or I squat this. This is what I do.
Which a lot of people still do.
And he had never really like thought that he should change that number or anything. And then until we went to that starting strength seminar and he told him, how the linear progression works and that he needs to weigh more. And man, he just took off with it.
This was like 2014, probably. So got really interested in strength training, like putting weight on the bar, got significantly stronger quickly, gained a lot of weight, 99% of which was fat because I still didn't know anything about nutrition at the time. That's not true. We can talk about that later, kind of how the morphosis of our nutrition knowledge over the years. But anyway, ended up getting a back injury during that time. Not exactly sure why. Tore a muscle in my glute. Had to put strength training on the back burner. But you had put
significant weight on the bar from your 185 days to like.
I took my 1 rep max squat up to 370 pounds, which I mean, I probably only weighed 185 at the time. So it was for the end of a novice linear progression, it was decent. So I built a good base of strength, just doing the boring strength lifts over and over and over. And I was getting bored with it, but I had this injury and people were
at the
coming
time
over
we were having like this group of people that used to work with me at Rice would come over to our garage like 3 or 4 nights a week, and we'd all work out together. And so like I would, do the CrossFit stuff, and then he was doing the strength training. And so everybody was like kind of joining in. And then he had an injury. So he started, like, my brother had been into like bodybuilding at some points in his life. So he reached out to my brother and was like, tell me about bodybuilding. I need something to do. I can't just be there doing nothing. And so he got into bodybuilding. And so these people that were working out with us were like kind of getting this dose of like doing a little bit of strength training, doing a little bit of CrossFit, and then seeing how Jonathan's like physique was changing since he had done this bodybuilding. They're like, well, what's he doing? Let's do some of that. And it's kind of like morphed into this,
Our hybrid approach.
Yeah. What we use
which
today.
Everybody has now.
Yeah. But that's kind of like how it organically happened, was just like seeing all these different parts working with these people, and they were getting fitter, and their physiques were changing.
Yeah. And then I was able to bring back strength training into the mix. And then when Blakely opened the actual facility, I did a lot more CrossFit, and, I was getting results. And I feel like, just putting in the effort during that time is really what built the base for being able to be fit, at the age that I am now.
And even at my gym, we would have like days just dedicated to like strength and bodybuilding type work, because they were interested in like, okay, we want to do CrossFit, but we also want a little bit more of what you guys are doing.
At the time, it was the only CrossFit gym that had a mirror in it, and that we were doing bodybuilding.
That's awesome. Well, you touched on a lot of really good points. I think some offhand are just struggles that I see with people in taking. Is the first one is, oh, I work out, but like I'm afraid to increase the weights, right? So like we see that a lot, is that people are going to the gym or they're going to classes, and maybe they're going to like an Orange Theory or just like a regular class at the local gym, like a boot camp, and they never actually like touch any heavier weights. And for most like females that I meet, let's say in their 40s, I've met females in their 60s, they're like, I've never lifted more than 12 pounds. And then they're, 3 months into coaching, they're deadlifting, 125, 135. So what the first point is just like the importance of actually increasing your weights and progressing over time, and also building a base that takes time. You can't just go through a 4 to 8 week sprint and go, I'm in shape now. Like you have to create a base so that your body can change. And then the last one, which we'll kind of dig a little into, is just you were working out consistently, you were seeing the results, but you were still noticing you weren't getting the body composition results because you weren't working on the nutrition the way that maybe you should have. So what was your understanding or background in the way you ate, your nutrition, before you started to focus on it? And what were the specific changes that you made to make it better?
I think we could take this all the way back to childhood if you want. Like
you have to, right? Because that's where it starts. That's where it starts, man.
I grew up in a house with a mom that had an eating disorder. So it was a constant diet culture. We were she was either always on a diet, or the whole family was on this diet just for support of whatever, what plan or program she was on at the time. I mean, I don't remember how old I was, but I have a memory of Weight Watchers being the thing. And I was young. And for some reason I was on this point system also. And I finished my dinner, but I was out of points, and that was it. I wasn't allowed to have any more food. And I remember crying, going to my bedroom hungry that I was out of points for the day. And
we can laugh about it now, but like I've met women who their moms were taking them to Weight Watchers meetings when they were 10 years old and making them weigh in front of people. It sets you up. And I just listened to a podcast with Lane Norton. He was saying how, your current circumstances may not be your fault, but it's your responsibility to change it. So
that's good. Yeah.
It was a really powerful quote that I heard. Is like, so your eating habits when you were an adult before you got into nutrition, they weren't necessarily your fault. It was maybe due to the way you were brought up or the social situations you were in, but like it became your responsibility to make those changes.
Yeah, totally agree with, personal responsibility is like a dirty word these days, but yeah, couldn't agree with that statement more. What about you? Like, what was nutrition like in your family growing up?
It was just like, what did we want to eat? My mom cooked at home for us. She cooks most things from home, but there wasn't like any like concern about the nutrition side of it. It was just like, what's tasty? From Louisiana, and it was just like, what's the tastiest thing? What all the carbs lined up are the tastiest. Basically.
I remember visiting your house when we were dating, when you lived with your parents, and they had like the baker's rack with every Hostess thing, oatmeal cream pies, Twinkies.
But a common meal would be like buttered noodles with rolls, and I have a hard time thinking about like what were the proteins that we even ate. But
I grew up very like casserole oriented.
It's funny that you say that, because I was just having that conversation with my wife recently about how when I grew up, there was always like some sort of Drake's or Hostess box. It was like when my parents went shopping, it was like, oh, we need milk, we need eggs, we need an Entenmann's or a Drake's.
The fifth food group.
Yeah, the fifth food group. And I have a, like, you know, my family is very similar in the sense of like food was really just, okay, we need to eat. What do you want right now? Like that you just literally just make your food choices based off of craving, convenience, or comfort, right?
Exactly.
So what did you feel like? And I started personally, because I guess this is just probably childhood trauma tied into this behavior, is I started watching what I ate when I was like 12. So like I was a skinny kid and then got chubby going into like a new middle school. So like you hear about it from people.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? This is like before, you know, anti-bullying was a thing. So like people just bullied you if you were fat. And I didn't want to be fat anymore. So I just started eating differently. I stopped drinking soda, I started drinking water, but I didn't know why. I didn't know it was because of calories. I just thought, oh, these foods are bad, these foods are good. So growing up in a house where there was constantly Drakes and Entenmann's and things around, I started not eating it and people started noticing that I wasn't eating it. And then me being, my personality is just, oh, if you notice I'm different than you, then I'm going to like lean into that difference. So then I made like a stance like, oh, I'm not eating this stuff. And I think for me, that helped me develop self-discipline as I got older. But I also was, when I was 19, I thought a McChicken was healthier than a double cheeseburger. So like, I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about.
Yeah.
So for you, I guess, going into adulthood, did you guys continue those behaviors from childhood, just kind of choosing food off convenience and taste?
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. Even though the first part of us being married, we just didn't know. I mean, I can remember like pastaronis and frozen pizzas, and we just exactly like wrote
a lot of takeout.
Yeah. And I think another big piece of it that I think about now, that like we would both like leave for work in the morning, you know, for whatever 8 to 10 hour day and have zero food with us. Like right now I'm like, I bring snacks for every occasion. Like I always have food with me. I mean, I can't imagine it now, but yeah, like no preparation at all in nutrition.
Yeah. She smuggled Cliff bars into music festival we went into a month or so ago.
I was like, I got bars for everybody.
It's actually funny to hear that though, because me and my wife are the same way. It's like we went to a Mets game in the summer with our sons too. At the time he was a little younger, obviously, but we were going to a Mets game. So it's like a 3-hour drive. We got the game for a couple hours and a 3-hour drive back, and we had like a whole cooler of like food, like turkey sandwich and fruit and all this stuff just to get us through the day. And I can laugh about it, but in reality, I'm like, oh yeah, but if I didn't have that, I would either be starving and angry, or we'd eat something shitty. And I think that's a common behavior we see. I think that was a conversation we had before when we initially set up the podcast, was that, you know, Blakely and John, like before they became, you know, who they are now, they were just, you know, the average American couple as far as your diet goes. Like you just ate frozen pizzas and pastaroni and takeout. That's what people are eating. And people are leaving their house, no water, no food for the day, and then wondering why they're coming home at 5 p.m. starving and and it's like, you know, shoving food in their face from the pantry. Yeah. So what was some of the first steps you take? I guess, you know, that was point A, what's point B? Like right now, what does your nutrition look like? And what was some of the steps you took to make that transition?
Well, when we got introduced to CrossFit initially in 2009 in Tennessee, our coach there, he took the whole group to a Whole Foods.
Yeah.
And literally like walked us around to Whole Foods and was like, talked about like what you find in these sections, and started introducing us to the Zone back then. Like, do you know what that is?
Oh yeah.
The Zone diet.
Basically like the keto before keto.
Yeah. Like you associated like so many foods with like blocks of, you know, anyway.
Yeah.
But it's a low carb diet by nature though, right? Kind of.
It's almost like it's more like macros.
Interesting. I'm thinking of Atkins.
Oh yeah, not Atkins. It's like so like foods are assigned like a number, and you're like, okay, I can have like 4 blocks of protein, 4 blocks of carbs, and 3 blocks of fat for this to make up this meal.
And there's a whole giant chart.
It's kind of confusing to figure out, but
it's super confusing.
But that was our first introduction into like, oh, we actually should put some thought into like making a plate, like a complete meal, and have these different blocks.
And we got married in 2002, and this really wasn't until 2010 that this came to be. So like there was almost no nutritional awareness even up until this point. Like,
so it got us thinking about like, how do we create these plates? But there was still like, you could get away with anything. It was like, oh, this delicious like honey peanut butter is only 2 blocks. Like we can fit this in our diet. You know, we were still trying to just like do everything we could to fit the tastiest things in. Not,
I used to call that like macro Tetris.
Yeah.
Like people are counting their macros like, oh my God, like how do I fit in these Oreos? And then again, it's losing sight of what's the purpose. We're learning how to build this foundation of how you should be eating most of the time.
Right. Versus like trying to scam it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very much like a system. There was still no understanding of nutrition. Like we didn't know the term macronutrient at the time. It was just, you know, we were playing the game.
Right.
Really. We didn't know what game we were playing, but we were playing that game and we were always hungry.
We have like had the chart in our pantry. I remember like looking at it up, making meals out of it, but at least we were doing something.
Yeah. But like during that, I wouldn't say during that time that our bodies changed for the better, really. Like we were already both probably pretty lean at that point. And like, you know, we got a little bit stronger through CrossFit. There was no significant change to our body during that time. Because really looking back, we were probably under eating during that time.
For activity we were doing.
For doing CrossFit 5 times per week.
Well, that's the common behavior, right? Is like, oh, I want to be leaner, so I should eat less and move more. And that is just an oversimplified version of what people need to do. So I think your journey, like I'm not saying that everyone needs to be a super fit fitness coach by at the end of the journey, but for you guys, that beginning part is very, very relatable and impactful because for most people, that's where they live forever is, oh, I eat this way. I eat normally. This is how I try to eat when I want to diet. I don't see much change in my body. So then I just go back to what I was doing before. So for you guys, given again, at the time, you weren't like John, you weren't even involved in fitness from a professional standpoint. Like what made you kind of keep going? You're making these changes. You're not seeing maybe drastic changes in your body. So what motivated you to stick with it or at least dig into it deeper?
I would say
like, oh, I'm done. I'm throwing the towel.
Yeah. So I would say if you go back to that time period where I was doing the starting strength novice linear progression and getting rapidly stronger, but also rapidly gaining body fat, because I only knew eat more. Like that's the way that you're going to get bigger and stronger is eat more. And it wasn't until I got to the point where I was like, I'm not happy with the way that I look or feel, and I've probably impacted my health. It might be time to actually like look at learning about nutrition because I need to lose some of this body fat. And I'm pretty sure the best way to do it isn't only to think about eating less. So that was kind of the genesis of like actually digging in and starting to learn about nutrition. And kind of, that was the time where we probably created a lot of awareness about, okay, here's what a plate should actually look like for us.
Yeah. For me, it's always been like about like the way I feel. Like I kind of had a little bit of a eating disorder back. Like I think even when we were dating before we were married, and like, just like this fear of like a stomach ache and a fear of feeling bad. And as I started like understanding nutrition, understanding like the things that I put in my body affected the way I felt overall after weeks and months of doing it, I really like, I was hooked and like cleaning up my diet, not for any kind of reason other than just like the way that it made me feel every day.
Yeah. That's again, it's very relatable to talk about that. And I feel like it's a really good message to send people because most people that I'm sure you guys see this too, is people that we interact with, they're really only trying to make these changes because 99% of the time they just want to look better, or they want to fit in a certain dress, or they want to weigh a certain amount. They're so used to feeling kind of crappy that they don't understand that they feel crappy. They don't understand that it's probably not normal to not to go too deep into it, but like to be constipated all day, or to have like going to the bathroom all the time, or not drinking enough water, or not sleeping well. They don't see the connection. They're just like, so I need someone to follow me around and slap food out of my hands. Like that's the saying you hear a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then, but instead it's, okay, well, how does this food make you feel? Why are you eating this food? And I think if you can tie the results and the behaviors to those feelings, it gets people through the tough times where maybe the scale is fluctuating or it's not going down and things like that.
Yeah, it's way underrated, just the general awareness. Like we're so conditioned to just do so many things in our life for what is the instant feeling I'm going to get. Like this is going to taste good. I know I'm going to have a stomach ache afterwards and I'm going to be doubled over and probably not sleep good, but man, it is going to taste good.
It's someone else is saying that used to say like you not hungover from alcohol, but you don't feel like you would, what was it saying?
I think I wrote an email about this, about how like you probably been hung over your entire life and not ever realized
hung over from what you're putting in.
Right.
Like
not alcohol, just
not alcohol. Yeah. Just like all the foods, and like, you don't know what it feels like on that other side.
It's like if you treat your body well with food for a long time, and then you go on an extended trip and you have 3, 4, 5 days, even if you're trying to quote, eat clean out at restaurants, you're bringing in a lot of things you don't normally eat. You're like, I cannot wait to get back to my normal diet so I can feel good again.
It's an interesting, point of view. Like I said, we kind of share an experience that most people don't always relate to or understand, because they're used to not feeling great all of the time. And they look at the emotional attachment they have to those behaviors, and they're strictly categorizing those behaviors based on the emotional attachment. So for example, drinking is fun, or drinking relieves stress, or not saying that you're not allowed to drink, but I'm saying like drinking relieves stress, drinking is fun. Eating these foods make me feel comforted, or they're fun to do. I like the social aspect of going out to eat with my friends. So then when they want to lose weight, they're just like, well, if I can't do any of that fun stuff, I don't want to do it. They don't even realize, oh, well, for the last 5 years, you've been not feeling great, chronically dehydrated, having all these digestive issues, not sleeping well. And they're just so used to feeling like that. Whereas for people like us who prioritize this stuff, and it's not like a, live or die, we're trying to train for a competition, we're just prioritizing it. I know if I get back from a trip, I can't wait to just eat normal. I can't wait to sleep a normal amount of time and drink enough water and just eat my normal foods. And I just know I'm going to feel better in a couple of days. And I look forward to that feeling.
Yeah. The key is helping people get consistent enough for long enough to get a taste of that feeling, so that they can forward think to the way that they're going to feel the next time they're tempted to choose the instant gratification, be like, oh, well, here's the trade-off I'm about to make. Is it going to be worth it?
Yeah. That's one of the big progress markers we see with clients too, is that when they start to make those connections, like, oh my God, I ate this food that I would normally eat every day, and I realize I feel like crap the next morning. Like I've been eating healthy for so long now that like I didn't realize this food made me feel like garbage. And your palate starts to change too, because I know for me now, there's certain foods that 15 years ago I would be like, oh, that's like a staple in my diet. And now when I'm like, the thought of eating it, a perfect example for me is like Chipotle and like Subway and places like that. That was like a staple, like a multiple times a week sort of thing when I was in my 20s and I was working at a chain gym, just training people all day. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go to Chipotle for lunch. Same thing, showing up to work, no plan. I'll just go to Chipotle and grab lunch. Now that I'm eating Chipotle at like 11 o'clock in the morning on like a Monday, I'm just like, ugh. It's gross.
No, I mean, those two examples are perfect for me too. Like, when I was in construction, I was out on the road a lot, and you get in the habit of eating that kind of food, and like, you just assume you're supposed to have a stomachache after you eat lunch. No, you're not supposed to.
This is how everybody feels, right?
Right.
Yeah. I remember that's interesting. Cause I mean, for years, it was just like, oh, I know when I eat, I'm going to have like a little bit of stomachache after. I just thought I just have bad digestion or whatever it is. And I remember it's funny that you say that, because I remember one of my best friends at the time, he was actually the best man at my wedding. He would be able to eat like a Chipotle burrito and drink a glass of milk and then go do a fucking workout. And I'm like, I would need 2.5 hours between that and the workout to even feel slightly ready. And now, like, I just know my body better, and my habits are more in tune. So I know, like, what foods I like to eat prior to workout, what foods I like to eat post workout. And if you were to, dig through all of my food log, you'd find the shares with you guys, we pretty much eat a lot of the same stuff most of the time.
Yeah.
And to answer everyone's question who's listening to that, no, we don't get sick of it.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's one of the hangups I have, is where somebody says like, having a variety is really important to me. That's like one of the keystones of my nutrition, is I need a lot of variety. So there's a trade-off for variety. Is either you have a lot of time to spend on finding new recipes and cooking things, or you have a lot of money to pay somebody else to do it for you. So if you don't have that, then variety is probably not in the cards for you. But I think what really most people mean when they say that they have to have a lot of variety in their diet is they don't want to eat healthy food every day. So the thing is, they haven't found the foods that they like that align with their goals. That's the missing piece. And that's where a coach can come in handy.
And I think one of the big things we had to do when we had to learn to cook. And I think like we had to learn how to make proteins and learn. So I think that was a big thing for us. We were always dependent on either buying food from like restaurants pre-made or the boxed sources. And when we started, learning about our nutrition, we're like, we need to learn how to cook meat, raw meat, things like
Oh
that.
yeah, and those are hangups of mine too. But and to go back to what you said, John, about the variety thing, I think there's two different ways I always look at that with the client when they present that hurdle to me. The first one is I'm like, you don't want variety, you want the option of variety.
Yeah.
So it's not that you actually want to be eating all these different foods every day. You just want to think that you can. So my usually counter to that is like, listen, you can pretty much eat whatever you want as long as it fits these calorie protein ranges, blah, blah, blah. But let's start. But here's some meal template and grocery list is going to help you hit these. Let's try this first. My second objection to that is this is like my biggest one. I always have to try and say it in the calm voice. I just go, what the fuck do you eat now? I don't say fuck, but I go, what do you eat now? And when they list out what they eat now, you see there's not a lot of variety. They're eating the same 2 to 3 breakfasts, the same restaurants in town, the same orders, the same drinks, the same bottle of wine every weekend. I'm like, there's no variety in your diet. It's just that you are strictly going off of comfort and taste and emotion and not thinking ahead, that you don't even realize, you don't remember what you ate 3 days ago. So there is no variety in most American diets. It's just, they just have the illusion of variety because they're living in the moment. They're not planning.
Yeah. Yeah. What if you gave somebody a meal plan and you said, all right, every morning I want you to have 2 bowls of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and every evening I want you to have a bowl of Ben and Jerry's. That's going to be your plan. Can you stick with that? They'd be like, heck yeah, I can stick with that. Well, what about variety? I thought you needed variety.
Yeah, I thought you wanted variety. Yeah, there'll be the same people who will be like, oh, I could eat pizza every day. Well, I thought you wanted variety. Like, do you make a new fancy pizza recipe every day? It's a very interesting, and I think us politely calling people out on that is a good wake-up call. So I've had people say to me like, holy shit, I never actually thought about it like that. And then with me, when I'm coaching someone when they first intake, I usually have people track their food for 3 to 5 days prior to me even giving them any coaching advice. I just want to see what you normally eat. And again, like what you see is not a lot of variety. It's usually just low protein, kind of grab and go, same restaurants, same dinners and stuff like that. So for you guys, what's a normal, not necessarily specific foods, but like what are the big levers that you pulled to make those changes? Like what were the big aha moments that you had to make those diet changes?
Yeah, it has to start with just like some kind of awareness. We both have gone through times where we've spent time tracking really accurately in MyFitnessPal, and not that has to be part of anybody's journey, but if you have a specific goal, you probably need to create some really specific awareness about what you're eating. You really might be surprised about how many foods have tons of calories in them, how many foods that you think have protein in them, like peanuts, really don't. So, creating some awareness was huge for us. So that was a big part of it. And then like looking at, what do we do now to kind of stay on track? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Like I guess now it is so habitual for you, but I guess if you were to kind of look at yourself from an outsider view and go like, these are like our kind of habits. What are some principles that you kind of live by? Like if you were not tracking, what is your normal kind of diet look like?
Can I steal one that you always tell people?
Sure.
You brought up on our podcast is that like, we try not to waste meals that could have been better saved for like a social occasion. So let's say like we're up in Austin and, it's getting kind of late. We're getting a little bit hungry. We have food at home. It might be easier just to stop at, Texas Roadhouse or something like that and eat, but we could, eat a snack, grab a bottle of carbonated water and finish the drive home, then eat at home. So we try not to waste that restaurant meal just because it was more convenient.
Especially if you're going to pick up a restaurant meal,
right?
Like
it's not even going to taste that. It's not even.
It's not. It's and that's one big thing we try to tell clients. It's just like save that for an experience where it's like you're going to go sit down together and you're going to have a experience with that meal.
That's a really good one. I'm going to steal that from you if you don't mind. That's a really good one. It's just not wasting that meal on just the convenience of it. Save it for when it matters. And what are some other ones that you guys have?
Like Blakely alluded to earlier, we are always kind of thinking when we leave the house, like, what is the situation going to be?
How many hours are going to be gone? What do we need?
What do we need to bring with us so that we don't get caught?
And he's really good about just keeping us prepared with food. Like even this morning, he was like cooking up some chicken. So we'll be having lunch later. We have a rice maker. We always have like rice cooking, you know, just having these things available. And I think that's been the biggest piece, is like not leaving it just up in the air for every time we get hungry. What are we going to do? We have to figure something out. We have these things in place. We always have vegetables kind of ready to go.
Yeah. It's like thinking about, like, we really think about our day in the chunks of the meals that we want to eat. And we try to, and maybe this comes from like the construction background, but if you're building a house, like you kind of need to know what you need to be doing a month from now. Otherwise you're going to get to that time, be like, oh shoot, I should have planned for this a long time ago. So forward thinking, like, okay, if we're going to have protein ready for lunch and dinner tomorrow, we can't wait till then to think about it. We need to, so putting, time into thinking is really a big part that keeps us on track. And then like we wrote this thing called the grocery and meal prep guide that kind of breaks down, like, here are the categories of foods that you might consider preparing throughout the week. And here's how to put those together into meals. And that's really just born out of the way that we approach nutrition. Like we think about, okay, what proteins do we want to eat this week? What starchy carbs do we want to eat this week? What vegetables can we have on hand? And then we add sauces and things like that to make them not boring, arrange them as a salad, arrange them as a bowl, put a bed of chips under a bowl of chili to get some carbs in there, whatever, like, but not thinking about complicated recipes, but just thinking about these as categories of food, and then kind of doing 2 to 3 day bulk preparation as much as we can of the main sources of that. We're not the like plastic tub in the refrigerator kind of people, but
you guys are like literally just like speaking directly in my language. I just had that conversation with another coach recently. I was like, if you really dig into it and you read people's stuff or you listen to people's stuff, you'll find that really the good coaches all out there are all saying like the same shit pretty much. Yeah. It's just, you got to find someone that you vibe with and go learn from them. But like, that's literally like, that sounds like you're taking words directly out of my mouth of conversations I had with clients. Like, when me and my wife decide on dinners for the week, it's just like, what do you want for dinner this week? And we just pick the protein. And then we know we're going to have a potato or a rice or pasta with it. And we figure that out on the day. Like as recently as this morning, we had meat in the fridge. I texted my wife, what do you want for dinner? I gave her like 3 options, because if we just go back and forth with who wants what, and she just goes, salmon, take out the salmon. Okay, we're having salmon for dinner. I'll figure out the rest when I get there. And I'm also the same way. Like we bulk prep rice. I might bulk prep some beef or some fish or some chicken, but other than that, like I'm not the Tupperware dude with everything stacked up, perfect Instagram lifestyle. It's just not realistic.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not necessary either.
Yeah, not necessary, not realistic. So I think that those are really really tactical and applicable things that people can actually
it's not like super sexy advice, but it works. And like you say, like if you look at somebody who maintains a relatively lean physique year round, this is the life that they're living. They're not doing this like crazy extreme stuff on one end of the spectrum.
And the beauty of like, we were talking about logging food and stuff is like, we don't log our food anymore. But like we did. So we have that education about like, and that's why I think it's so important for people to at least do this for a period of time, because it's just like, it gave us this awareness of like, what does protein, carbs, and fat look like on a plate and for a whole day. And we can pretty much eat like, if we go back and like do a check to log or whatever to see what we're eating, like, okay, we're hitting it, or maybe we need to add a little more carbs, but you can hit it pretty good if you've given yourself enough time of education through logging to understand.
Yeah, I just wrote a whole post about that, how like I didn't track for one day from like June to November of this year. Yeah. And I like maintained my body weight, improved my body composition, improved my performance at the gym, because all I did was just ate the same way as I did when I was tracking. Most people just they think that the logging of the food is what gets the results. Right. That's just a tool to build the habits, and the habits is what gets you the result.
Yeah. And to bring the education about what you're actually eating. We have like a funny story. We used to like eat plantain chips because we thought they were healthy. We both love chips, and like we'd be snacking on them while we cooked dinner. And and until we like put some numbers to it, and we're eating like 800 calories of plantain chips while we're preparing the meal, because we just didn't have this awareness. We're like, thought they were quote healthy, but we never like turned the bag over.
You said something about like, it's not about what you log in MyFitnessPal. And I think this is another thing that people forget. And I don't mean to sound like snarky with this, but it is not about what you type into the app. It's about what you put into your mouth. Because I think people can also develop like a disordered relationship with logging and with like their expectation of whether they're somebody who can get results or not, because they'll track their food but they'll track their food so that it looks like they reached their goals for the day, and they'll actually eat things outside of what they logged, not in a, like
not deceiving,
not a deceiving way. It's just like, they don't feel like it's a big deal. So
absolutely, yeah.
But then they don't get the result that they're expecting. So it actually leads to them believing that they can't get results. There's a disconnect between that stuff that they're not accounting for and their expectation.
Like handfuls of stuff you pop in your mouth when you're just preparing stuff and you don't put it in the log.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
We're all guilty of like licking the peanut butter spoon and things like that. Yeah. Which again, like we're not saying like if that one thing is going to determine your results. It's just that adds up over time. And for most people, they're doing that constantly throughout the day. We're having like, I do some corporate wellness work too. And so I'll talk to people who work in an office all day. And I've been working with them for a while now. So I'm able to be pretty candid with them. And I was like, do you guys work in like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory? Like, what the fuck goes on here? I'm like, you just like this person's grabbing candy. There's donuts in the break room. So there was pizza in there for lunch. I'm like, you guys need like to reframe this. But you guys made a really good point. I think I was listening to it actually same podcast that I referenced before with Lane Norton, and he was saying they did this study where essentially they just took these people and they told them that they had to log their calories. But they did some sort of test where they could actually figure out how many calories they were ingesting, right? But they told the people, like, you have to be honest on this, because if you lie, we will know. So everyone logged as honestly as they could, and they were all off by like 300 to 500 calories. So it's not that people are doing it in a deceiving way or trying to lie. They're just unaware. They don't weigh out the nuts. They go, oh, I know I had a serving, and it might be 3 servings. Oh, I only had a tablespoon of peanut butter. I was guilty of that one for years, where I would do I did 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. I logged that, and it was actually like 5 servings. I didn't weigh it.
Yeah.
It's not malicious. It's just the way that it goes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the downfalls of tracking.
And I have that conversation with people when they first start up, and maybe they're getting frustrated the first couple of weeks and not seeing changes. And I tell them, I said, listen, you're tracking your food, but all you're doing is living the way you lived before we worked together and just logging it. So by doing that, you are making some good choices and better choices, but we actually have to start implementing the habits that we're talking about, or else the logging of the food is not going to make a difference.
I always tell people, changes with your nutrition come from a result of habit change, but one of those habits is not logging your food. It's actually the food that you decide to put in your mouth.
That's a really good point.
3 other things that we do kind of popped into my mind to help us kind of stay with this lifestyle. Number 1, we weigh ourselves every day. Because we're not afraid of it. We realize it's just data. And if we're not logging our food, it's a good reality check to make sure that we're not, overestimating portions or that kind of stuff. Number 2 is we keep a pretty clean food environment around our house. My sister brought over some Halloween candy last week, and I've had a piece every night since she brought it over. That's not normally in our house, and I wouldn't normally have it. But if it's here, I'm much more likely to have it. So, in general, we keep our food environment really clean, especially around foods that we know. For me, it's like granola. If we have a bag of delicious granola in the house, I'm probably going to have 1 or 2 servings at night, even if I'm not hungry. So we know just not to bring it into the house.
But that's labeled as a healthy food, right? So most people, they're like, oh, I eat granola for breakfast. Like, it's healthy. It's like, right, it's actually like 300 calories of straight sugar.
Yeah.
Right. That's why it's so delicious. And then the other thing is like, we stay on track with our workouts, and we track our progress with our workouts. And I know that doesn't sound like it might tie directly to the nutrition, but we know that you know that it does. But a lot of people, like, I interviewed somebody on the podcast. He owns a gym in Houston, and he was like, most of the clients come into the gym, they think their nutrition is like a supplement to their training. Like, if I ate better, I'd probably perform a little bit better in the gym. And he's like, no, like it is the thing that you're missing. It would unlock a whole new level of performance to you if you ate well. So, we know if we're making progress in the gym, and that helps us stay motivated with our nutrition.
My one addition to that is my other favorite one is when someone goes, oh man, like I just had, like, they're not feeling great in the workout. So I just really I didn't eat enough carbs yesterday. And I'm like, it's not just yesterday. It's what you did the 5 weeks leading up to this one workout. Like, it's not just if you had a Nutri-Grain bar last night, you would have automatically hit a PR today. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's like the Michael Scott in The Office where he eats all the pasta before
Yes.
the
Time
fight.
to carbo load. Yeah, but that's a perfect example. I think The Office, which is, by the way, like probably the top 2 shows of all time for me. I think if you do watch that show, there are so many trends that are in there comically, but these are like real behaviors of like actual people that they do this all the time. Like when they did like the weight loss challenge in that show, and everyone's like bragging about how little they ate. It's like, little things like that. And then as soon as they do some sort of body positivity thing, then they just start to swing the other way and they're like, oh, I'm so happy to be eating pizza. It's really really entertaining. But I really appreciate you guys coming on. I don't want to take up your whole time. I hear my wife and son got home a few minutes ago. I hear them running around downstairs, so I probably have to tag out. But where can people go find some of your content and some of your resources? Where would you send them?
Digitalbarbell.com is the hub for everything. We have a bunch of free resources up there, workout programs that Blakely has written that are 100% free. And we're just at Digital Barbell on all the socials too. Yep. We put out 2 podcasts a week also on Spotify and Apple.
And all those links are on your social?
You got it.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, and we'll definitely connect again soon.
All right, Adam, thank you.